Rose was forcibly arranged by her mother for a blind date. Reluctantly attending, she found that the man was not only divorced but also had a child. Frustrated and unwilling to engage further, Rose claimed she already had a boyfriend, grabbed a random man nearby, and kissed him. However, this man was no ordinary person. He was Jack, the boss of a top-tier conglomerate. Coincidentally, Jack's fiancée had run away from their engagement that very day, and he was desperately in need of someone to pretend to be his fiancée. Rose had unwittingly stumbled into his plan. Attempting to escape the absurd situation, Rose found herself powerless against Jack's threats and persuasion. In front of everyone, Jack personally slipped an engagement ring onto her finger. Rose, annoyed, secretly raised her middle finger, but Jack caught her act and glared at her. At the engagement party, the snobbish socialites mocked the unknown Rose. Rose wasn't one to be trifled with. She slapped one of them across the face. The socialite, stunned, attempted to retaliate, but Rose skillfully dodged, causing the slap to land squarely on Jack's face instead. The room fell silent in shock. The socialite froze in terror, while Rose smiled mischievously and took the opportunity to slip away. Returning home, Rose faced her father's fury over her antics during the blind date. Her stepmother tried to play peacemaker, but Rose slapped her without hesitation. When her stepsister Amy intervened, she received the same treatment. Rose ruthlessly exposed their scheme, accusing them of deliberately arranging such an unappealing match to humiliate her. Her father, however, continued to side with her stepmother and sister, coldly declaring that Rose was only worthy of marrying a man like that. Just then, the roar of a car engine echoed outside. Jack had arrived to fetch his fiancée. Rose's parents locked her away and lied, claiming they only had one daughter, Amy. But Jack wasn't fooled. He found Rose and took her home. On the drive back, Rose nervously asked Jack if he had truly thought through their marriage. Jack, brimming with confidence, replied that she couldn't possibly find a better husband than him. Rose mulled it over and reluctantly agreed he was probably right. Still, their lack of emotional connection worried her. Sensing her thoughts, Jack leaned in and kissed her suddenly, whispering that he didn't mind taking the time to build their relationship. Stunned, Rose tugged on his tie and kissed him back. The two soon held a successful wedding. After the ceremony, a tipsy Jack stumbled into Rose's room and pinned her to the bed. Nervous and stiff, Rose was caught off guard when Jack teased her, saying he wasn't interested in bamboo poles. Enraged by the insult to her usually pride-worthy figure, Rose grabbed Jack by the collar and kissed him passionately, trailing her lips down to his throat. Jack smirked at her reaction, clearly pleased, and the night turned fiery. After their marriage, Jack's sister was hostile toward Herb Countrybumpkin's sister-in-law and constantly sought ways to humiliate her. One day, she poured a basin of water over Rose. Rose retaliated by tossing her into the bathtub. Furious, Jack's sister screamed that Jack's true love was Amy, and that their marriage had only happened because their grandmother had threatened him with her health. Rose, enraged, later saw Amy forcing a kiss on Jack and misunderstood their relationship. Hurt and furious, she left home. Jack returned to find Rose missing, and immediately realized his sister had caused trouble. After sternly reprimanding her, he rushed to Rose's office to find her. At work, some colleagues, envious of Rose's seemingly relaxed demeanor, mocked her for slacking off. Calmly, Rose revealed that she had already completed all her tasks and even criticized their inefficiency. One of the colleagues, humiliated, tried to physically confront her but was effortlessly thrown to the ground by Rose. Jack, arriving just in time to witness this, couldn't help but smile. Rose stormed into the elevator, only for Jack to follow her inside. He demanded to know how long she planned to ignore him. Rose tried to escape, but Jack blocked her way and dragged her into his car. When Rose insisted she didn't want to return home, Jack silenced her with a kiss. Pushing him away, Rose exposed the truth behind their marriage and demanded a divorce. Jack immediately refused, assuming her reluctance stemmed from insecurity. To reassure her, he transferred all his assets to her and invited her to join his company. Out of spite, Rose spent 6.8 million yuan in one day, buying out an entire mall. When Jack found out, he nonchalantly encouraged her to spend as much as she wanted if it made her happy. His sister, however, was outraged and scolded Rose for being wasteful, suggesting Jack give some of the new collections to Amy. In response, Rose casually handed over the clothes she was holding, but Jack quickly snatched them back, placing them in Rose's hands instead. He firmly told her that the gifts he bought for her weren't to be given away. Rose sarcastically quipped that he should be happy to give things to the woman he loved. Jack immediately denied having feelings for Amy and, in frustration, drove off. Moments later he reversed the car, carried Rose over his shoulder, and growled that if she continued to disregard his feelings, he'd deal with her properly. In bed, Rose, undeterred, retorted that it would be her dealing with him instead. Jack's assistant, overhearing this exchange, blushed furiously and hurried away. At home, Rose angrily dried her hair while muttering curses at Jack. Quietly, Jack picked up a hairdryer and began gently drying her hair for her. His tenderness left Rose momentarily speechless. Just as the atmosphere between them grew intimate, Amy called. Jack took the call and left in a hurry, prompting Rose to roll her eyes and jokingly call him a hopeless flirt. In reality, Jack was meeting Amy to gather information about a top hacker, Cindy, whose help his company desperately needed. The next day, Rose joined Jack's IT department. Her colleagues, curious about her relationship with Jack, bombarded her with questions. Denying everything, Rose offhandedly joked that only someone blind would fall for Jack. Unfortunately, Jack overheard. He dragged Rose into his office, kissed her forcefully, and growled, "Let's see who's blind now." Furious, Rose bit him in retaliation. Amy, witnessing the scene, feigned politeness and brought Jack a meal, but Jack handed the food to Rose instead. Soon after, the company was attacked by a world-class hacker. The IT department's head panicked, estimating it would take 24 hours to fix. Rose quietly snuck into the server room and resolved the issue in no time. Jack began to suspect that Cindy, the hacker he had been searching for, was right under his nose. Oblivious, Amy took credit for the fix, but Jack, noticing Rose's sulking expression, took her out for dinner. At the dinner, Amy boasted about being able to secure Cindy's help for Jack, unaware that Cindy was, in fact, Rose. At a subsequent banquet, Rose decided to expose Amy's lies. But before she could, Jack, jealous of Rose's interactions with a subordinate, interrupted, demanding to know who she had been speaking with. Their argument ended with another heated kiss, which Amy witnessed, seething with envy. Eventually, Jack's grandmother recovered from surgery and decided to test her new granddaughter-in-law. Disguised as a housekeeper, she deliberately broke an antique vase, expecting Rose to scold her. To her surprise, Rose offered to take responsibility. Jack's sister attempted to escalate the situation, but the grandmother reprimanded her instead. It was clear Rose had won her approval. Jack's sister had no choice but apologize to Rose. It was only then that Rose realized the housekeeper standing before her was actually Jack's grandmother. Furious, Jack's sister ran to Jack to complain about their grandmother favoring Rose, but Jack merely replied with a cold, "Serves you right." Hoping for great-grandchildren soon, the grandmother secretly drugged Jack and Rose's wine during dinner. That night, the effects of the drug took hold, and the two were consumed by unbearable heat. In her hazy state, Rose reached out to touch Jack's chest. Jack, smirking mischievously, teased, "Don't regret this tomorrow." Rose, taking charge, pushed him down and kissed him deeply. They surrendered to the moment, consumed by passion. A few days later, Rose's shameless parents showed up, pleading with Jack to invest 50 million yuan into their failing business. Rose, disgusted by their greed, kicked them out. Amy happened to witness this and decided to use Rose's parents in her schemes. When a subordinate dropped Rose off at home, Amy secretly snapped a photo and sent it to Jack, accusing Rose of meeting another man. Although Jack angrily scolded Amy for her malicious intent, he couldn't help feeling jealous in private. At an invitation-only banquet hosted by Amy to honor the legendary hacker Cindy, Rose arrived dressed to the nines. However, Amy blocked her at the door and locked her in a room. Furious, Rose warned Amy she would regret this, but Amy dismissed her threats. Meanwhile, Jack and his team tracked Cindy's location and burst into the room, only to find Rose inside. The truth dawned on everyone. Rose was Cindy all along. Learning about Amy's actions against Rose, the attendees turned on her, while Jack, livid, dragged Rose away. On the way home, Jack questioned why Rose hadn't told him earlier that she was Cindy, especially knowing how long he had been searching for her. Combined with his jealousy over her subordinate, Jack's anger boiled over. When Rose suggested they get a divorce, Jack agreed without hesitation. However, the moment the words left his mouth, he regretted them. That night, Jack drank alone, staring at a photo of Rose's subordinate. The more he looked, the more he realized the man was nothing compared to him. Fueled by jealousy and regret, Jack drove to Rose's house to confront her. To his horror, he found her drugged and being forced into a car by her parents, who planned to hand her over to an older man as part of Amy's schemes. Rose, tears streaming down her face, demanded to know why her father would do this to her. Coldly, he pushed her into the car. Summoning her last ounce of strength, Rose managed to escape. Just as she stumbled in despair, a pair of headlights illuminated her figure. Jack stepped out of the car, rushing to hold her trembling body. Half-conscious, Rose mumbled complaints about Jack being a flirt, accusing him of liking Amy while still meddling with her. Jack's heart ached at her words. He silenced her with a fierce kiss, growling, "The one I've always loved is you." Rose, as if cured of her anguish, clung to him. Unable to resist each other, they kissed passionately. Soon, Jack's assistant, noticing the violently shaking car, blushed and quickly walked away. The next morning, Rose woke to find Jack lying beside her. Acting shameless, Jack insisted she take responsibility for him. What started as an attempt at divorce only brought them closer, much to Rose's frustration. Deciding to address unfinished business, Rose kicked her scheming parents and sister out of the house. Upon discovering Amy's role in Rose's ordeal, Jack immediately cut all ties with her family, leading to their complete financial ruin. One evening, Rose invited her subordinate out for dinner as thanks, only for Jack to stumble upon them. Consumed with jealousy, he demanded to know why she hadn't returned his calls but was dining with another man. It was only then that Rose realized her phone battery had died. Jack redirected his anger at the subordinate, scaring him off. He then pulled Rose into his car, declaring it was time for her to meet his parents. Jack's parents were thrilled with Rose and gifted her 200 million yuan as a welcome present. Later, Jack nervously asked Rose if she could promise not to like other men. Rose, confused, asked when she had ever liked anyone else. After sending Rose off under the guise of fixing her computer, Jack had his friend investigate her subordinate. It turned out the man had no romantic interest in Rose and was merely her employee. Relieved, Jack confessed he had never had feelings for Amy. The misunderstanding resolved, the couple shared a heartfelt kiss. Not long after, Rose discovered she was pregnant and gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The mischievous little ones quickly drove Jack's sister to the brink of madness. In tears, she begged Rose for mercy, wailing, "Sister-in-law, I was wrong. Please take your kids away."